I want you to close your eyes and think of the person who loves you unconditionally, who's generous and compassionate, who puts her loved ones before herself, and the one you can always count on above everyone else. When hearing those words, I thought of one's mother. In America, there's one mother who we all share, the Statue of Liberty. Good morning, judges, fellow peers, teachers, and other guests. My name is Lena McCall, and today, America's mother is more important than ever. When hearing the words Emma Lazarus gave her, they inspired and should inspire many other ordinary Americans, just like all of us here today, to act on those few lines of patriotism. The new Colossus was engraved onto a pedestal at the base of the Statue of Liberty because those few lines are very vital to our nation. I depict the Statue of Liberty as a mother who is welcoming all of those in need of a home. She holds her torch in order to light the way of all of those who are seeking shelter in a new land. Lady Liberty will not turn anyone away. She will accept the tired and poor and anyone else who needs to be free. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. Those few lines stresses the true meaning of patriotism and embodies that the Statue of Liberty is to be viewed as a beacon of welcome for immigrants leaving their European mother countries for the new Mother of Exiles. Her torch is lighting the way for all to see. Lady Liberty's torch grows worldwide welcome. These heartwarming, significant, and nationalistic lines are underappreciated. You can't think of the statue without hearing the words Emma Lazarus gave her. Since most people who can quote these famous lines might not necessarily know the rest of the poem nor the true meaning, the new Colossus is informing the world to give her all of the people who are longing for freedom, disregarding if they are tired or poverty-stricken. It makes no difference. Written in 1883, the poem helped to establish the nationalistic idea of the Statue of Liberty as a welcoming mother and of America as the great nation of immigrants. This representation was helped by the fact that the Statue of Liberty was the first American landmark that immigrants arriving in Ellis Island would observe. Lazarus's poem established to me that the Statue of Liberty is to be viewed as a beacon of welcome for immigrants leaving their European mother countries for the new Mother of Exiles. In the past, many large monument statues were meant to deter enemies or to represent the strength and wealth of a nation. But Lady Liberty represents so much more than that. She represents the true wealth of America, the true compassion, diversity, and generosity. This one poem, out of millions and millions, has changed a person like me to feel more patriotic than ever. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Send these the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. The homeless tempts tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. A poem can really change you. Has it changed you?
Imagine you were called to the Second World Trade Center to do work for an investment bank. You're in your office and you see out of the corner of your eye a plane hit the building next to you. You are then in total panic. Welcome teachers, students, and fellow contestants. My name is Ava Helmrich, and I'm here to tell you why Wells Crowther is a patriotic hero, friend, brother, and son. Wells Crowther was just 6 years old when his father gave him two bandanas, one white and one red. The The white bandana was for fancy dress, and the red bandana was to blow his nose in. When Crowther was 18, he was called to the Second World Trade Center to do work for an investment bank on the 104th floor in 1998. 3 years later, on September 11th, 2001, Crowther was in his office for the very last time. When the first plane crashed, Crowther left a message for his mother saying, "Mom, this is Wells. I want you to know that I am okay." Then the second plane crashed. This, however, is when Crowther took action. He saved 18 lives that day and gave his own. He carried a woman from the 78th floor to the 61st floor and still went back up for others when he found a fire exit leading to a stairwell. He is now known as the man in the red bandana when he was seen wearing one on the 78th floor around his nose and mouth to prevent debris and other particles from getting in his lungs. That same bandana his father gave him when he was just a boy. Then the tower collapsed at 9:58 a.m. Crowther was crushed under the rubble and was found 6 months later on March 19th, 2002 in the South Tower's main lobby with a bandana wrapped around his neck. What will you do to help fix our nation's wounds? For Crowther, it was saving others because he simply knew that he could. For you, it may be packing meals to give them to the people who need it most, or fostering a child to help them out of the terrible life they have been living. America isn't the cities or buildings or money you own. America is us. We should be living as if we are trying to shape America for the next generations to come. We are living as if we have nothing to give and everything to gain. We need to put ourselves aside and start living the way we were created to live. There is no question if Wells Remy Crowther was a patriot or not. He risked his life because he knew he could save others. Those who were saved that day will never forget the face of Wells Crowther. And doing this speech today was the least I could do to thank him for the lesson he taught me, which is, know that your heart will never fail you. I hope every one of you in this room goes home and thinks of something great you can do for others. Let's be a part of something bigger and better. Thank you for your time.
Elma Davis once said, "This nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave." What does this mean to you? Defending your country or even your family? What about protecting your rights? Welcome, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Skylar Ellerman. Dictionary.com states being brave is possessing or exhibiting courage or courageous endurance. Now, why would this be important to America? Freedom has kept us as a country strong, keeps us united, and gives the people something to believe in. The braver our country is, the longer we stay the land of the free. Isn't that important to you? This is your child's future. See, now, being brave, it's not a new concept. During the Revolutionary War, the 13 colonies wanted to be free from King George. The colonists weren't going to stand for all of these ridiculous rules being put on them. We needed our freedom, a new way of living. Our bravery led the founding fathers to declare our independence against Britain. America started out brave, and because of this, we have remained free. Now, our passion and love for freedom once almost died out. In America, slaves were being taken from their home to be brought to America. Abraham Lincoln decided that no one man should be kept as a slave. Lincoln decided to fight against his own country. This, in my opinion, is one of the bravest moments in our country's history. So many brave men and women stood by Lincoln's side, fought and died, just so everyone could be free. If it weren't for his courageous acts, some of our closest friends, families, and even neighbors wouldn't be here today, and we wouldn't have some of the rights that we do now. Our love for freedom tends to bring us together. We thrive off of freedom, which makes us, as a country, stronger than ever. Actually, one of the most horrific times in our history brought us together. 9/11, a horrific time in our history. 9/11 showed us that no matter what, nothing could stop America. We stood together. We showed our strength in numbers. Our bravery brought us together and showed the rest of the world, because we are one country and because we stand together, we will remain free. Now, being brave is nothing if our next generation doesn't understand what it means to be brave. We should take the time out of our lives to show our children what freedom has done for our country by teaching them how bravery has saved us and brought us together so many times. Bravery saves us, makes us strong, united, safe, and especially free. With it we stand, without it we fall. No one man can make this country free, but instead a nation of loving, devoting Americans ready to protect and keep America on its feet. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why this nation will only remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. Thank you.
We're blessed with the opportunity to stand for something: liberty, freedom, and fairness. And these are things worth fighting for, worth devoting our lives to. Those are words from Ronald Reagan, and I believe all American citizens should embrace and understand this quote. Welcome teachers, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Bella Baccia. Now, why should we all embrace this quote? Why should we all understand these powerful words of Ronald Reagan? Well, we are blessed to stand for something that is worth our lives, like liberty, freedom, and fairness. As humans, we all have a voice. We all have opinions and arguments against each other. We all have different belief systems and religions. But as American citizens, we have that opportunity to voice it. We all have that opportunity to stand for what we believe in. The First Amendment is freedom of speech. North Korea, Cuba, Syria, and Libya are a few countries that get little to no freedom of speech. But America does. We have to stand for what is right because it is our freedom and no one can take that away from us. You, teachers, the homeless people outside, and I all need and crave that feeling of liberty, freedom, and fairness. We all need freedom because it gives us the opportunity to succeed in our lives. It gives us an opportunity to live our lives how we would want them to be lived. It is even said in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But not only do we all need liberty and freedom, but we also want fairness amongst each other. The idea of a fair society is the one we would build even if we didn't know the position we would be in it. Being fair doesn't mean we all have the same objects or materials, but it does mean everyone of different backgrounds, race, and religion get the same opportunity. We all fight for something in life. We may have a little fight with our brother or sister, or maybe it's Black Friday and you're fighting for a TV that's 50% off. But those don't really benefit our daily lives that much. Liberty, freedom, and fairness does, though. People receive liberty and freedom when they work hard for it, when they don't take it for granted. The things most well known are the things easily taken for granted. American soldiers fight for our liberty, freedom, and fairness, but they don't need to be the only ones that do. We all can, using our voice and voicing our opinions, showing our patriotism by showing generous acts of kindness to others. Like I said before, our lives are not worth living without these three things. It wouldn't give me that opportunity to stand up here and voice my opinion. It wouldn't give you the chance to stand on the opposite side of me and disagree. We're blessed with the opportunity to stand for something: liberty, freedom, and fairness. And these are things worth fighting for, worth devoting our lives to, by Ronald Reagan. And I believe all American citizens should embrace and understand this very powerful quote. Now I know that some of you may believe that Americans don't have as much freedom and fairness as they say we do. Now, although this may be true, maybe some of us are just taking it for granted. It is passing your minds and never thought about. But if you really think about it, most everything we do in our lives is because we have liberty, freedom, and fairness. Thank you.
Good morning, judges, fellow contestants, parents, and guests. My name is Pedro Larrea. Before we start, I want to ask you a quick question. Do you know the definition of patriotism? Yeah, you might say showing loyalty and love to your country. Well, what's beyond that? What does loyalty and country even mean? That starts us off with our topic. Identify a problem and explain a solution to make America an even greater nation. First, I want to start off with asking you what the definition of patriotism, what the definition of country even is. My problem is that people get the wrong comprehension of what loyalty and country means. People think they must stop pollution or stop climate change. But one person can't stop pollution. Thoughtfully, 1 million people can stop pollution. So let's think about this. There's a quote stating that you can't get to the top of the mountain if you don't start from the bottom. So let's start from the bottom and work our way up. First things first, we need to know the definition of country. So think, if you were asked right now, what is the definition of country in your own words? Some might say the land, the monuments, and our freedom. But you want to dig deeper. You want to look at it from a different perspective. What made our monuments? What gave our land a chance to thrive? What made our freedom? And with that, you will get the same answer I did. Us, people. People just like me, people just like you. We could help America become an exceeding nation if we became exceeding people. For example, Martin Luther King spoke speeches over racism and equality for humans. Who would have known that the world would be alternated forever thanks to him? Don't be scared to share your thoughts or to share your opinions, because no matter what's in your head, it matters. Martin didn't care if he got killed. As long as his words were heard, he would be happy. He fought for what he thought was best for his nation. Remember, with just a few words, you can change everything. You just have to have courage. Martin taught me that in order to learn something new, you have to look for something new. Another great example is the one-for-one movement, maneuvered by the shoe company Toms. Every time a pair of shoes is purchased, another pair is donated to charity. Also, for every sunglass is sold, money is donated to restore eyesight. Another great person who did something amazing was Brad Pitt. After Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, Pitt created the Make It Right movement, which built homes for communities for those in need. Someone else was Dolly Parton and the Dollywood Foundation. After the Tennessee fires in 2016, they launched the My People Fund, which would give people up to $1,000 for up to 6 months to rebuild their communities and their homes. The last example is Operation Beautiful, that is operated by Caitlin Boyle. It is a site of Caitlin's blogs. Its goal is to end negative self-talk. It talks about how negative self-talk is so toxic for our community. It affects us in people emotionally, spiritually, and physically. If you notice, these are all extremely different examples, but they all have one thing in common. They're what patriotism means. They were helping people in our country. Dolly gave the money he could. We could do the same. My dad always tells me, giving does not make you poor. If not, it makes you richer. Caitlin changed people's mindsets with a few positive words. So here's the solution to my problem. Every day at school, compliment a friend. Give them a hug. Smile. When you get home, tell your family you love them. If you go to the store, tell the cash register thank you. When you're at lunch, say thanks to the lunch lady. Even if she looks like Grumpy Cat, make her look like Mickey Mouse. If a kid is being bullied, don't stay quiet. Help them. If you see a homeless person, give them a few bucks. Donate to charities. For example, when I was younger, my mom and I would buy tons of toys and clothes, and we would donate it to our own charities. If I can do it, you can do it. In conclusion, we all need to be better people. That's all you need to show your bit of patriotism every day. I have stated a problem, defended it, found a solution to it, and it pulls together to make America an even greater nation. Remember, good things come to those who do good. I have one last question before I go. How do you show patriotism? How do you think we should show patriotism? How can you improve on how people see the world? I'm Pedro Larrea, and thank you.
Before I begin my speech, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and listening. I'd like to congratulate all of the contestants who have gone before me and all of those who will go after me. Good luck to you. Good morning. My name is Landon Vogt, and today I'd like to speak about a famous quote spoken by Pauline Hanson. Pauline Hanson was a patriot to her nation, and today I'm here to speak to you about how you can be a patriot to yours. She said the great words, quote, "To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, one flag." I hope those words mean as much to you as they do to me. Before getting into why this quote is so inspiring, so inspirational, so strong, we must first get into what it means. Let me break it down for you. First, there is to survive in peace and harmony. We must be united, live as a whole, not as foes, but as allies in life. United and strong, we stand together to form a wall, unbreakable, impenetrable to all who oppose us. We must have one people, no matter what poverty or what inheritance, we are all created equal. We must have one nation, one flag. We are all U.S. citizens. We are all Americans. We are America. Now, I hope you understand what that quote means, but you still may ask yourself, why is that patriotic? Well, let me answer that for you. This quote might as well be the definition of patriotism. It defines what America needs to do to be remembered as the last true hope of humanity. We must be a team, constantly, consistently working together to help better our problems as a nation. We see a homeless person near a gas station or restaurant. We give them some food or a few dollars. I have a friend who is out of a job. We give them a temporary home and help them find a job. As long as we follow these steps listed in this quote, we will be remembered as the last true hope. Immigrants will be happy to come to this place we call home. They'll be even happier to call it their home. Pauline Hanson truly knew what she was talking about when she said this quote. I did an online search about why all Americans are so patriotic, and loads of the websites I found listed the same steps as Pauline Hanson. We are united, we stand together, we are strong, we have one people, one nation, one flag. This is a quote from one of the websites about why even those in poverty, without riches or a home, were so patriotic. Quote, "First, many view the United States as the last hope for themselves and the world. Their strong sense is that the nation gives them a sense of dignity, a closeness to God, and the nation responds to most of its problems. Deprive me of my nation, and you deprive me of the last true thing we have left to hold on to." This quote really defines how America is so patriotic. Now, I'd like to speak about some of the ways we can put this quote into action. Well, let me remind you of the quote. To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, one flag. Got it in your head? Good. Now you may ask yourself, how can I enact this? Well, it's simple. First, you can vote. I did an online search, and apparently of those eligible, only 65% of Americans voted. That's a whopping 35% of Americans who had the chance to vote but didn't. Your vote counts in your democracy. It helps decide the leaders who help make your nation better than it already is. Can you imagine that? You can also recycle, which not only helps your nation, but helps your planet, and, as I said earlier, help a homeless person, help work at a soup center, help give some food. Do whatever you can. Pauline Hanson was a true patriot to her nation, and you can be a patriot to yours. I'd like to end this speech by saying my quote one last time so it really sticks. Quote, "To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, one flag." Thank you.
war. Everywhere. The country is falling apart, and everybody is relying on you to save it. You try and try, but it's already been 4 years of this. But you keep trying, knowing that one day your plans will work. Hopefully. Maybe. However, as you sit in doubt, you must remember that everybody is counting on you. How would you feel? Stress building like a ticking time bomb. Making battle strategies, sending supplies, hiring recruits, freeing slaves. All while you put a smile on your face for a crowd and say you will win this war. Welcome parents, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Cameron Quinn, and I'm here to explain 3 reasons why Abraham Lincoln is the most patriotic American. 1, he fought to keep our country together. 2, he wanted freedom for all. And 3, he used his words to change history. Abe Lincoln, or Honest Abe, was born on February 12, 1809 in Hodgenville, Kentucky. He grew up on a small farm and was self-taught in English and arithmetic. Eventually, after a tough childhood, he moved on to be a small-town Illinois lawyer, then a big-shot White House president. He got married in 1842 to Mary Todd Lincoln, and eventually they had 4 kids: Robert, William, Tad, and Edward Lincoln. Lincoln became president of our country in 1861, but right after his election, the Civil War broke out. The South wanted slaves in account for citizens, while the North did not. So the South seceded from the United States, or tried. Lincoln, however, knew that the future of all Americans was depending on his willingness to keep it together. So he used his constitutional powers to release the Emancipation Proclamation. This freed all slaves, but further, Lincoln knew that freeing the slaves would give him more of an army if he could get them to join him. He did. After the proclamation was released, nearly 200,000 slaves joined the Union Army. This gave the U.S. the manpower it needed to conquer the South's main fort. Then, after the last battle of the Civil War, Battle of Palmetto Ranch, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse in 1865, ending the bloodiest war in history and uniting our country once and for all. Now that we've discussed the fact that he released the Emancipation Proclamation, we must remember that there are 2 things just changed. War strategy is one, but freeing slaves is another. On October 29, 1863, Lincoln released this. It states that all slaves living in rebellious states shall be free. His gesture worked, and by the end of the Battle of Antietam, he had freed over 3.5 million slaves and rising. But he wasn't done yet. After this, he still put the U.S. Army on guard to protect them and encouraged outlaw states to do the same. He further held campaigns about the Declaration of Independence, saying all men are created equal in attempts to free the slaves. But Lincoln saw another solution throughout his presidency that had gone unheard of: to have all slaves taken to Africa or Central America. This way they would be gone, completely free from harm. This didn't happen, although he did deliberate. To conclude, he used his words to change history. Lincoln held many speeches throughout his presidency, including the Lyceum Address, the Temperance Address, the Gettysburg Address, etc., etc. But these speeches, these 5-minute speeches, were able to convince his listeners with an advocating sense of persuasion that changed history forever. His words inspired people to follow him and make our country better. But if you think about it, where would our country be without these speeches? Would we still be sitting next to each other, side by side? Would we be America still? All the things I just listed wouldn't be realistic had Lincoln not said it first. All in all, we can say Lincoln was an intelligent, dedicated man and the most patriotic citizen in America. He kept our country together, ended slavery, and changed history. Thank you.
As Americans, we have guaranteed rights that countless people don't have. My favorite one is the right to vote. We can choose our representatives who write our laws while many people in other countries can't. They are silenced and their government has full power. We need to recognize this right. Hello, my name is Harmony Fisher, and I conclude that every citizen in America needs to be politically active. It will affect your everyday life, it will make you a better citizen, and it will change your future. To begin, what we vote on for the government affects every single one of us. We vote on laws, government officials, and so much more. Who's in office can and will impact your life. For example, they are the people who can pass laws with the help of the government. If you elect a president not right for the job, they could do lots of cruel things to our country if their laws are also passed by the House of Representatives and Senate. It would affect us even more if we elect unsatisfactory state representatives and senators. They could pass unconstitutional laws and make your everyday life extremely difficult. They could change our country enough that people want to leave it. Would you really be proud of that? Additionally, it will make you a better citizen. USCIS.gov stated that we as Americans have responsibilities, and one of them is to stay informed on the issues affecting your community. End quote. This doesn't just mean to vote on the issue, but to be informed on the topic. And this skill can also help your career. Your career provides for the community. Helping the community helps America as a whole, making you a better citizen for putting in that extra effort to learn that skill. Hence, being politically active will make you a better citizen. Furthermore, it will affect your future. According to mudlog.com, our actions today affect the youth who are going to run our country. Youth see and study political acts often, and it has a huge impact on them. Whether that impact is positive or negative is up to the voters today to decipher. And not just youth is going to affect us. What laws and amendments we pass can make our lives so much better now, or it can make us miserable. Thus, being politically active will affect your future. It is also very important for every citizen in America to understand what being politically active means. It is much more than just voting. The definition of being politically active is the understanding of the world around you and being able to comprehend a problem in the government, analyze, and have a fact-based opinion on what should be done to fix it. Being in the moment and wanting to be involved in your government is the most important part of being politically active. Thus, it is much more than just voting, which is still important, but it is even more important to understand what it means and be doing the actions in the definition to be labeled politically active. In conclusion, it is important for every citizen in America to be politically active for many reasons. Therefore, I am challenging you to become more politically active in any way possible. Do more research on who you're going to vote for, or work on your opinion-making skills. Even kids like me can do this. I might not be able to vote just yet, but that in no way can stop me from learning, researching, and forming true opinions about our government. Just remember that your actions are going to affect us all. Today, tomorrow, and far in the future. My name is Harmony Fisher, and thank you for your time.
Those of you that have ever taken part in a sport know the feeling of euphoria when you cross the finish line. That sense of accomplishment you feel. No one can describe that feeling better than Chris Ring. When he crossed the line in December of 2015, more than a swim was finished. A powerful message was pronounced. I believe Chris Ring's Gold Star swim embodies patriotism due to his devotion to his country and those who serve it, his perseverance towards his task, and of course, his love for his country, his patriotism. Welcome, fellow contestants, judges, and other guests. My name is Brenna O'Kane, and I'm representing Paseo Verde Elementary. On June 6, 2015, 28-year-old Chris Ring started swimming in Minnesota. Over the course of 181 days, this man swam the whole length of the Mississippi to honor Gold Star families. Gold Star families are the loved ones for those who have died in the service of their country. According to Gold Star family member Jenny Smith, to be a part of a Gold Star family is something you never want to be a part of. But you're so proud too, because you're part of a group of people who understand and support you. Navy SEAL vet Chris Ring was the first American to swim the Mississippi. What sets him apart, though, is he didn't do it to set any records. He did it to honor the grieving families. He was devoted to raising awareness for the families who are often forgotten. And Ring would not be stopped while making these families known. According to NOLA News, Chris overcame numerous obstacles while on his route. He was hit by flying fish, endured persistent shoulder pain, and cut through 4-foot swells during thunderstorms. He also climbed up 29 dams on only a ladder. And that's not all of it. He swam through 10 states, averaging 15 miles a day, 6 days a week, for 6 to 8 hours a day, for 181 days. His swim totaled over 2,300 miles. Wow, that's dedication for you. That is perseverance at its highest level. The average American works around 6 days a week for 6 to 8 hours a day. Imagine swimming the whole time you're at work or school with persistent shoulder pain and other hardships. But did Chris Ring stop? No, he continued just to support his country and those who have died serving it. When he crossed the line in December, he didn't celebrate first. The first thing he did was turn and acknowledge the Gold Star families in a boat nearby. That is patriotism like I've never seen. That patriotism inspires me to be more like him and do it all to honor my country. When I heard Chris Ring's story for the first time, it gave me joy, knowing that there was someone out there giving it all to honor his country. Then I stopped and I thought, wait, why aren't I and others living like this man? We always talk about being patriotic, but are we really? Are we just reciting the pledge every day because we have to? Or do we truly care like Chris Ring does? This man, Chris Ring, not only accomplished his goal in making Gold Star families known, he pronounced an even bigger message. Don't just talk about your patriotism. Live it out. Ring inspired me to care more about my country and do more to show my patriotism. He showed me that Gold Star families do deserve their title. He showed me there is more to patriotism than saying a few lines every day. It's truly feeling, knowing, and living out the words. It's truly caring about whatever you're doing. That is what Chris Ring did, and we should all follow his example. Live out your patriotism. When Chris Ring decided to swim the Mississippi, he trained for 4 hard months. He had plenty of time to quit, but he didn't. He was focused on being a patriot and doing it for the forgotten families. We all have what we have today because of these families and their loved ones, Chris Ring said after a day's swim. He is very right. We would not be here today without the sacrifices made, and that is what Chris Ring wants us to remember. The families who have given so much and asked for so little. What Chris Ring did embodies true patriotism, and that is the kind that will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Imagine, you go to a movie, pay for your movie, then go to find your seat. As you're about to sit down, you're told to go to a section for people with brown hair. How would this make you feel? Welcome judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Ava King. A constitution, as important as it is, will mean nothing unless the people are yearning for liberty and freedom. Although we have a constitution that grants us many rights, we must never stop fighting for those rights, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Lincoln did. On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave an unforgettable speech. MLK was an African-American male who didn't have many rights. He knew that the world around him was unfair to people of color. He didn't like the way he and other people were being treated and how they were told to live their lives different than other people. He wanted to make a change. He fought and protested at many things, such as the Montgomery bus boycott and the 1963 March on Washington. He was so mad with the way he was being treated that he wrote a speech called I Have a Dream. King made such an impact that in 1964, he received a Nobel Peace Prize. To this day, he has never forgotten for his determination and drive to make America a better country. Another person who has fought for our freedom is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States in 1860. Lincoln proved to be a shrewd military strategist and a savvy leader. He knew that America was using slaves, and he also knew that this wasn't right, and slaves were people just like us. He wanted to put an end to slavery. His Emancipation Proclamation paved the way for slavery to be abolished. He has fought for all freedom for everybody in America. To this day, he is one of the most famous people in America. Personally, freedom is a big thing to me. As a person living in the United States, I can't wait to be able to vote. But I didn't always have this opportunity. On August 18, 1920, women were granted the right to vote. If it wasn't for brave and empowering women, I wouldn't have the chance to be a part of my future and to make differences. Because of brave and empowering people, I now have so many opportunities and rights. I never do and never will stop fighting for my rights that I have been so blessed with. This beautiful country has already given me so many opportunities. And I can't wait to use the First Amendment in my power, the freedom of speech, religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. So many people have fought for America's freedom, and we must never forget that. A constitution, as important as it is, will mean nothing unless the people are yearning for liberty and freedom. Although we have a constitution that grants us many rights, we must never stop fighting for those rights, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Lincoln did. They showed courage and bravery in so many ways. Now, how are you going to fight for your freedom?
Welcome judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Paige Mayo. I would like to share with you the person I consider to be most patriotic. That person is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is known for his vital role as a leader in preserving the Union during the Civil War and beginning the process that led to the end of slavery in the United States. Abraham Lincoln was born February of 1806 in Kentucky. Abraham Lincoln came from very humble beginnings. He had little formal education growing up, but spent hours studying and reading. What he lacked in formal education, he made up for determination. Abraham Lincoln started his political career in the 1830s and then became our 16th president in 1861. Abraham Lincoln's most famous speech was the Gettysburg Address, in which he was quoted as saying, 7 years ago, on this continent, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. This famous speech went on to say that our nation was fighting the Civil War to see if we would survive as a country. He dedicated a portion of the Gettysburg battlefield to the people that had died there. He said, "The people still alive must finish the task and save the nation so it will not perish from the earth." Patriotism is defined as love and loyal support of one's country. I feel the Gettysburg Address shows his love and support of his country. While running for president during one of his speeches, he declared his support of the Declaration of Independence and admitted he would rather lay down his life than lose the principle on which this great nation was founded. The Declaration of Independence encompasses the kind of patriotism that America was built on, and is the kind of patriotism that it will take to maintain our freedom. Abraham Lincoln set an example of strong character, leadership, and honesty, which presidents that followed him tried to uphold. He was quoted as saying, "Gold is good in its place, but living, brave, patriotic men are better than gold." He knew that America's future depended on its willingness to defend the Union and the freedom it stood for. He stated on July 10, 1858, during a speech in Chicago, Illinois, "I leave you, hoping that the lamp of liberty will burn in your bosom until there shall no longer be a doubt that all men are created free and equal." Throughout his life, Abraham Lincoln wondered if he would leave his mark on history today. 200 years after his birth, people around the world still find inspiration in his story like no other American. His life is entwined with the history and the culture of the nation. His rise from poverty to the presidency has inspired others to believe in the promise of the opportunity here in our country. His leadership in preserving a democratic nation is one of our greatest accomplishments, and his death is our American tragedy. He stated in a letter to Alexander Stephens in December of 1806, "I fully appreciate the present peril this country is in, and the weight of responsibility is on me." This unschooled politician from the western frontier has encouraged generations with his generous spirit and his willingness to give life, so the government, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Thank you.
January 8th, 1947. Then President Harry S. Truman stands in front of Congress and delivers a speech that will forever live in infamy for a specific quote from it. That quote being, "America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and the unbeatable determination to do the job at hand." But what exactly does this mean? How is it patriotic, and how does it relate to me and you today? Good morning, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Camden Zulte. First and foremost, what is fear? It is defined as an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. Notice the word belief. We were and still aren't a country based on fear, but on courage, like when we left England to be free. Imagination, all of the incredible inventions we've made, and determination, winning the civil and revolutionary wars. To me, that sounds like a safe, welcoming, and downright outstanding country to live in. It's pretty obvious that this is a patriotic quote. I mean, the whole point of the speech is to choose a patriotic quote and write about it. But what makes it patriotic? Yes, it's very encouraging and written about the US, but there's more to it. During this time, the Cold War was just beginning and World War II had just ended. Many Americans may have felt as though they couldn't escape the constant warfare. A little discouraged. Notice the courage and discouraged. So Truman may have said this to sound a little encouraging and give people some hope. A more obvious reason is that this quote shows a lot of faith, trust, and love to America. Okay, so I just talked about the Cold War and World War II, but what about right now? How does this small little sentence relate to me and you and you and you and everyone else in the room? Well, if we break it down, we'll quickly find the answer. Fear. We shouldn't be afraid. America is at the peak of its technology. No, I don't mean cell phones, I mean forensic sciences, the weapons our military uses. We're obviously safe, and as a result, we shouldn't be afraid. I don't ever want to hear the words America and fear in the same sentence ever again. Courage. Let's take our military and first responders for examples. They all know that there's a chance, big or small, that they could die every day, and they still do it. No one made them choose that career path, yet they still did. You may not be a first responder or in the military, but my fellow contestants, it takes a lot of courage to be up here. Imagination. It's everywhere, and you can't escape it. Recall the last book you read, all the speeches you've heard so far, all the speeches you'll hear, and simply the fact that a shirt is called a shirt. That's imagination. It's also how our president became our president, how you got your name, and how you decided what to wear this morning. You may not be a quote-unquote imaginative person, but you've still used imagination before. Determination. Wanting to do or change something. You have determination when you want to pass your test, so you study extra hard, or when you want to win your game, so you practice more than usual. America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and the unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. We know this means that we shouldn't be afraid, because we are safe and one of a kind. We know that it's patriotic, not just for obvious reasons, but because of a background during this time in the US. And we know that just because it was said over 70 years ago doesn't mean it's just another sentence in our history textbooks. Thank you.
I am an American airman, guardian of freedom and justice, my nation's sword and shield, its sentry and avenger. I defend my country with my life. These are the words of the U.S. Airman's Creed that represent true sacrifice. These words have inspired our country and motivated others to want to protect and defend our nation. In fact, to be our nation's sword and shield, sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices like our American military, 9/11 heroes, and even you and me. Do you fully understand what it takes to be in the military? The intense sacrifices of the men and women in the Air Force may be close to home for you if you have a relative who has or is currently serving. When someone joins the Air Force, he or she gives up all the freedoms which you and I enjoy, perhaps overlook time with their family and friends, community involvement, and the things they love to do to be our nation's sword and shield. Although I'm highlighting the Air Force, there are several other armed services which also make these unconditional sacrifices. Those serving in the Navy lose their normal way of life and go miles from home when they join. The military is exactly what the U.S. Airman's Creed is stating. In addition to our great military, there are so many important Americans that sacrificed their lives in 9/11. Imagine, it's September 11th, 2001, 8:46 in the morning. You're walking on the streets in New York and you hear a plane, but you don't think anything about it until you see it crash to the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Your mind is filling with thoughts. You decide to go help without knowing what's going on. Many of those Americans arriving on the scenes were firefighters who did not consider the risk of losing their lives that day. According to Wikipedia, there were 75 firehouses in which at least one American was killed. The FDNY lost its department chief, first deputy commissioner, one of its marshals, one of its chaplains, as well as other administrative or specialty personnel. The average American citizen also offered his or her life to save those in danger. These Americans had one goal, to save others no matter the sacrifice. Along with these brave Americans, you and I will have to stand up and be our nation's sword and shield. What are you willing to offer for your country's freedom and justice? Well, I'm only 5 years away from being an adult, and when that time comes, I'll have to make choices on my own and use the knowledge I have obtained to protect and defend our freedom, which others want to destroy. Some of you might want to join the military. For those of you that don't, there are other ways to support and protect our nation. For one, be kind and loving to others, but with an alertness to be on guard for someone who might want to cause harm to others. There may be someone you or I know who is hurting in life. Trying to be kind and not judge them can make a big difference in the direction they take for their future and our country's. You can make a big difference in defending our country by first looking to create peace, so those who serve in the military may not have to face war. No matter what age you are, you can always try to find a way to protect and defend the freedom we enjoy by living in the United States. I hope you can now understand. To be our nation's sword and shield, sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices like our armed services, brave people, and citizens like us. I will never forget what the U.S. Airman's Creed says. I am an American airman, guardian of freedom and justice, my nation's sword and shield, its sentry and avenger. I defend my country with my life. These words remind us what sacrifices our country has and will have to make. Sacrifices that built our nation. Sacrifices that become and always will be our nation's sword and shield.
Imagine if one event in U.S. history changed how Americans saw things. An event that made us think we're living in a world of fear. But what if that fear could bring people together in an amazing way? Good morning, parents, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Avery Johnson, and I'm going to be talking about 9/11, a quote by President George W. Bush, and how his quote and speech brought our nation together. United 93, a flight that never reached its target destination. I think that if it weren't for the actions of the crew and passengers of Flight 93, we may have experienced an even more devastating day. When the passengers found out that there were hijackers aboard the plane, a vote was taken, and the passengers had decided to fight back against the terrorists. Eventually, the terrorists decided to crash the plane before reaching their final destination. The brave actions of the passengers saved more lives than we could ever know. The trauma we would have faced if not for these actions would have been horrifying. The passengers sacrificed their lives for the greater good of America, and America is so grateful. Since the attacks, we've been able to defend our country against terrorism and keep our citizens safe. President George W. Bush served an 8-year presidential term from January 20th, 2001 to January 20th, 2009. So he witnessed the aftermath of the attacks and the evil of it, but he also saw the beauty in it, the beauty of a nation coming together to help fight and stand up against terrorism. President Bush had given a speech at the Pentagon Memorial in 2008 as a tribute to the people who had lost their lives there. President Bush told Americans that life wouldn't be the same after the attacks, that Americans were awakened to the evil of terrorism and they were determined to destroy it. My favorite part of Bush's speech is when he says, "One of the worst days in America's history saw some of the bravest acts in Americans' history. We'll always honor the heroes of 9/11, and here at this hallowed place, we pledge that we will never forget their sacrifice." He reassures people about all the tragedies in 9/11 and all the lives that were lost. When he says, "We pledge that we will never forget their sacrifice," I believe that this is the most accurate thing out of his entire speech. You might ask yourself why. Well, it's been almost 18 years since the attacks, and still today, people are making the pilgrimage to the final resting places of their lost loved ones and raising Old Glory in remembrance of that day. Today, we study these events in class as a history lesson, and we learn it from those who actually experienced it. President Bush's speech made Americans realize a lot of things, like the fact that we have men and women every single day who go out and fight to keep terrorists away and to save us from another attack. We noticed that after the events of 9/11, our nation showed its true colors: red, white, and blue. Stores ran out of flags, millions donated blood, and thousands were enlisted into the military. Congress put aside their differences and arguments for a little bit while they tried to figure out solutions to the damages and to 9/11 itself. On the evening of the attacks, about 150 members in Congress, Democrats and Republicans, stood shoulder to shoulder and sang "God Bless America" on the Capitol steps. Congress passed a $40 billion anti-terrorism and victim aid measure just 3 days after the attack. When President Bush gave his speech, Americans swiftly responded with fellowship and patriotism. People tattooed stars and stripes on their bodies. American flags rose up in neighborhoods across the nation. Americans were inspired, and they were given hope that we could have a better future. President Bush's quote changed how people saw 9/11, and it changed how people viewed our country. Americans were given a sense of remembrance, and with that remembrance, we looked back and saw every part of the event again. The planes crashing into the towers, people jumping from the buildings trying not to be burned alive, people falling from the buildings while collapsing, and finally, individuals being rescued from the rubble and debris. The day Americans came together as one nation, regardless of creed or color, to stand up against indescribable evil. The day that will forever be known as September 11th, 2001. Thank you.
We will forever be thankful to America for welcoming us and offering us to live out our faith without fear. These are the words of 2 brave young women who were thrown into prison and sentenced to death by the Iranian government just for practicing Christianity. This is the awful reality for more than 5 billion people worldwide, facing punishment just for their beliefs. Fortunately, American citizens do not have to fear this kind of injustice because we are protected under the First Amendment of our United States Constitution. Good morning, judges, guests, and fellow speakers. The First Amendment grants us the right to free speech, the right to peaceably assemble, and freedom of religion. In 1787, as James Madison and his fellow writers wrote the English Bill of Rights, they understood that freedom of speech would always be very important to American citizens. They wanted to express that with the new democratic system, we would no longer be controlled. We would be able to express our opinions without fear of punishment. We are free. Now fast forward 232 years later, and we're exercising this right more than ever. Take something as simple as music, for example. Artists can release songs in any genre with any subject matter that they choose. In other countries, the government may filter their citizens' music according to their beliefs or standards. But in America, we may listen to any music of our choice, even if the government wouldn't necessarily condone the message. And though expressing your opinion may cause debate, it could also be a compliment that makes someone's day or a statement that changes someone's life. The right to free speech has undoubtedly helped shape America into the beautiful country it is today. Another freedom promised by the First Amendment is the right to peaceably assemble. Without this right, significant rallies such as the March on Washington, led by Dr. Martin Luther King, could not have happened. That was where he gave his monumental "I Have a Dream" speech. Many Arizonans recently exercised this right during the Red for Ed movement, when tens of thousands of people stood together fighting for what they believed in. I had the opportunity to participate in the Red for Ed movement with my mother, who has been teaching in Glendale for over a decade. As I stood beside my mom and her fellow teachers, I felt like I was a part of something that could really make a difference in our country. I felt like I was truly embracing my First Amendment rights. The last First Amendment right that I am going to address is the freedom of religion. All the way back in 1620, the Pilgrims came to America seeking religious freedom. They forged a path for millions of people who came here for that exact same reason. My family has a diverse religious background, as do most Americans. My father's great-grandparents were brave Catholic Syrians who immigrated to America promising a better life for their children. Ancestors on my mother's side were Mormon pioneers who traveled across the country to freely practice their beliefs. Because although the First Amendment allows American citizens to practice or not practice the religion of their choice, the government and society aren't always accepting of religions they don't agree with. I just hope that all of my fellow Americans will think about what the writers of our Constitution were trying to accomplish when they wrote our First Amendment. Our founding fathers promised us that any American citizen can practice the faith of their choice without persecution. Now it is up to us to promise future generations of Americans that they can practice the religion of their choice without discrimination or intolerance. It is our patriotic duty to appreciate and embrace our U.S. Constitution, especially our First Amendment. Whether it be through just expressing your opinion, participating in a peaceful protest, or standing up for someone who is being discriminated against. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. These are the words that shaped America into the land of the free. This is the First Amendment to our United States Constitution.
Empowering women in the workforce is a key to growing the economy and having a thriving middle class, by Christine Gillibrand. Good morning, fellow American citizens. My name is Jacqueline Martinez Amezcua, and women like me changed the way we get to live today. The women's rights movement changed women and the United States throughout decades, leaving an immense impact throughout history. Harriet Tubman, Sandra Day O'Connor, and Sally Christian Ride are three of the most patriotic women in history who had the greatest impacts on America. To begin with, Harriet Tubman, a strong, dedicated woman, was known for being more than her looks and appearances, but by her character. Her strong character helped her throughout her abuses when she was a slave at 12 years old. Harriet knew she wanted the best for her and her family, and so on Monday, September 17, 1849, she escaped her owner's plantation and headed north to Pennsylvania. After her escape, she wanted her people to know how freedom felt like, and so she was dedicated to go back to Maryland and free more than 300 slaves, including her family, using the Underground Railroad. Tubman also worked as a nurse, spy, and even a soldier for the Union Army during the Civil War, considering her the first African-American woman to assist in the military. This demonstrates that Harriet had no limits, and even though she was a woman, Harriet knew what she wanted to fight for, the good of America. Another woman that gave an impact to history is the one and only Sandra Day O'Connor. She is acknowledged for her hard progress in life, earning her a seat in the United States Supreme Court. In 1979, she was nominated by our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, to Associate Justice in the United States Supreme Court. And in 1981, she broke new ground for women in the legal field when she was sworn in as the first female justice on the United States Supreme Court. Sandra Day O'Connor inspired so many women to achieve their desire, no matter their gender, but what they believe is right. In the same way, Sally Christian Wright took ground, being the first American woman to orbit through outer space. In 1978, as a doctoral candidate and teaching assistant in laser physics at Stanford University, she was selected by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration as one of 6 astronaut women candidates to attend NASA. This demonstrates that hard work does pay off. She received a PhD in astrophysics and began her training and evaluation courses that same year. In August 1979, she completed her NASA training, obtained a pilot's license, and became eligible for an assignment as a U.S. Space Shuttle mission specialist. This explains how being patient and doing small things in a great way can give you big chances. On June 18, 1983, she became the first American woman to orbit through outer space aboard Space Shuttle Orbiter Challenger. After her resign from NASA in 1987, she supported a number of programs and organizations, especially for schoolgirls interested in science, mathematics, and technology. Sally K. Wright is notably an independent woman, helping other women and girls to accomplish their dreams. Either on ground or in outer space, women have been and still are changing our society throughout time. If it's from Harriet Tubman freeing her people from death or abuse and her crucial past motivating her, or Sandra Day O'Connor's earnest attitude earning her as justice in the Supreme Court, or Sally K. Wright doing something she never thought she'd do but yet overcame the obstacles, these 3 women are characters that symbolize empowerment, inspiring many women and teaching us that we can still change our society in an exceptional way. Thank you.
Could you imagine being told who to vote for? Being told what God you can pray to? How about being told you can or cannot say something? I know I would not want to live in a country where my liberty was taken away or monitored. But fortunately, we live in this beautiful land of the free. We have liberty. Liberty is a state of being free within a society from the oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. That is the official definition of liberty. But what I hear, and most importantly what I feel, is the choice. The choice to vote the way I want, the choice to pray to the God I believe in, and the choice to say the words I want. With this freedom, this choice, comes big responsibility. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about what liberty means to me and how responsibility goes along with that. Good morning. My name is Ava Nicholas. Do you realize how much freedom and responsibility comes from being able to vote? You have an obligation to educate yourself before you make an important decision. Voting is something that we learn at a young age. We have a choice. For example, student council, who's going to be elected president? We listen to speeches and we look into past experiences of the candidates. Then we are given the liberty to vote. It's hard to believe that it took the 15th and the 19th Amendments to allow all U.S. citizens over the age of 18 to vote. It seems unimaginable that at one point, because of what gender or what race you are not able to vote. So now that we can all vote, we owe it to ourselves in this great nation to be responsible before and after the vote. Too much hatred, protests, and rallies gone violent because the candidate someone wanted elected did not win. Friends are not being friends with someone anymore because their political views differ. This is irresponsible. Maya Angelou once said, If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. One nation under God. One of the most powerful patriotic words I have ever heard. But what does that God look like to you? Or to me, for that matter? We are fortunate enough, because of our liberty, that we're able to pray to the God we choose. Wow. We are blessed with our freedom. Responsibility comes with this religious choice, because even though we all not share the same religious views, we are still one nation under God. A couple of weeks ago, a young police officer lost his life while on duty. His funeral was held at CCV, Christ Church of the Valley. This Christian church is one of the largest churches in Arizona, but not just Christians attend this officer's funeral. That day, all religions came together, whether you're Christian or not. Everybody was there at that one church. When the pastor said, "Let us bow our heads and pray." Not everybody prayed to the same God, but we all shared one common love and sadness during that moment. Truly, for this moment, we are one nation under God. Lastly, I have the liberty to say whatever words I want. I hope your day is going great. That dress looks good on you. Those are just simple examples of kind words. However, with increased bullying and more personal attacks on social media, kind words are not being said as often as they should be. For example, the 9-year-old boy who doesn't want to go to school anymore because the other boys are telling me he can't play football. Or how about the 13-year-old girl who ditches classes because she's been told through social media that she isn't pretty enough? This is the reality we live in, but we do not have to. This is where we take a moment, step back, be accountable, and say positive, caring, kind words to one another. Liberty does bring us the freedom to say whatever words we want. But let us not forget how to be responsible with our choice of words. Kind words inspire. A kind word is never wasted. Today, I talked about what liberty means to me. Liberty means freedom, choices, and our choices are a privilege. We must never abuse them. We must also be responsible with the freedom we are given. So next time you go out and vote, I encourage you to educate yourself. Vote who you think is the best choice, but be prepared to accept what our nation decides. And also remember that not everybody prays to the same God, but we are still one nation under God. And think about your words before you say something unkind to someone. Take a few extra moments to reconsider. We live in the greatest country on earth, where I couldn't be prouder to be an American. We are fortunate enough to live in the land of the free. Let us not take it for granted. Now, what does liberty mean to you?
We're blessed with the opportunity to stand for something, for liberty and freedom and fairness. And these are things worth fighting for, worth devoting our lives to. Welcome judges, fellow contestants, and special guests. My name is Colleen Corcoran. These wise words spoken by President Ronald Reagan are the base that our country stands upon. And even though we may not think about them all too often, they are vital in keeping our country as astonishing as it is today. Because without liberty, freedom, and fairness, our country would be a completely different place. These three traits are essential to America's continued greatness. First, one of the building blocks of America is liberty. Now, I would like you to imagine a world where everything is decided for you. You're told what to wear, what to eat, even what religion to follow. You do not get to make a single decision. This constrained world is a place without liberty. And while people's lives in countries such as Syria, Sudan, and North Korea may be similarly constricted, America has the privilege of being free from captivity and control. We have the power of choice and ability to do as we please within reason. You may not even realize it, but we use liberty every single day. Whether you're deciding where to go or what to do that day, you make the decision. Even though all races, genders, and ethnicities may not have always had liberty, what truthfully matters is that we have it now. So we need to make sure that we do not abuse this ability and keep our liberty alive. Secondly, freedom also helps to build up America. Every American citizen has the freedom of speech, press, religion, petition, and assembly.
These freedoms give us the ability to express our ideas and opinions in words or writing, practice any religion, address issues with the government, and come together with others. We are granted these stupendous abilities thanks to our forefathers that created the Bill of Rights in 1787. The First Amendment gives us all of these freedoms. Although we have had our share of highs and lows along the road, we have always managed to maintain our freedom. It doesn't matter if you're one of the 1.2 million brave people that have or are serving in the military, or if you're one of the 283 million registered voters. You have helped to secure America's freedom. Third, the final piece of America is fairness, or in other words, justice and equality. While many still see faults in our equality, we have overcome many issues in the past to get to where we are today. For example, even after the 14th and 15th Amendments were ratified in 1868, discrimination against African Americans remained a colossal issue. African Americans were forced to separate restrooms and drinking fountains, and even had to go to a school of lesser quality. But in 1950, African Americans had finally had enough of being separated due to color. So the fight for civil rights began. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus to a white man. Oliver Brown went all the way to Supreme Court to fight for equality in education. And Martin Luther King Jr. announced his dream to all of America during the March on Washington. And it was when activists like these finally began to take action that a change was made. The Civil Rights Act of 1957 and 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1964, and Fair Housing Act of 1968 were all enacted to help fight discrimination. So even though we may still have fragments of inequality, we continue to work our way towards treating all Americans fairly. In closing, this quote by President Ronald Reagan helped to show us all what the land of the stars and stripes was made of. He showed us that our country was built on liberty, freedom, and fairness. These characteristics each play a fundamental role in America's existence, and maintaining them is basically a game of Jenga. If you simply take off just one block, the entire tower collapses. So, will you watch America fall to pieces, or help to keep it strong and sturdy?
Webster Dictionary defines liberty as a state of being free. My fellow Americans, let me describe liberty in my own lens. Picture this. You are living in a society that prevents you from riding a bus simply because of your skin color. A society that takes away your right to vote. A society that takes away every inch of your humanity. Good morning, judges, fellow contestants, and guests. My name is Franz Mascanana. My fellow Americans, we all have witnessed the horrific events in our history that had destroyed the dreams and dignity of our people. Out of the rubbles of hopelessness and despair, great people rose up and totally changed the face of our nation. America became great because of the blood and sacrifices of our men and women like Rosa Parks, Susan B. Anthony, and George Washington. First, Rosa Parks was arrested in Montgomery, Alabama on December 1st, 1955, for refusing to surrender her seat on a bus to a white passenger. Her refusal became a symbolic statement of resistance against racial segregation. Her action of disobedience had won the hearts of many Americans and led to the civil rights movement. Second, Susan B. Anthony led the suffrage movement in 1869 and fought for giving women the right to vote. Without her help, equal rights and opportunities for women will never exist. Susan had liberated our women of today from the bondage of sexism and inequality. Third, George Washington and our founding fathers fought and suffered for our country's independence from Britain in order to give us liberty and freedom. They inspired Americans like us to continue fighting and defending our nation against oppression and injustices. If it was not for them, we will never have a nation we can call our own. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you still feel the freedom that our great men and women fought for? Can you close your eyes and tell yourself, yes, I'm free? Let me tell you a story. One cold winter night, as I was savoring the sweetness of my coffee, different life scenarios flashed into my mind. As the camera started rolling into my head, I began to see our great men and women in uniform finally coming home for Christmas because the war has ended in Afghanistan. This scenario was later replaced by a picture of our government officials working together to solve our nation's problems. They were about to sign a bill when a picture of people of all colors living in peace and harmony blew my mind away. I smiled. I enjoyed that peaceful moment until my senses were captured by the breaking news on TV. 20 children died in a school shooting in Sandy Hook Elementary School. 554,000 Americans are homeless. 400,000 Americans are victimized of modern-day slavery and human trafficking. 20 U.S. veterans commit suicide every single day. Is this the free society that our founding fathers dreamed of? Is this our generation's declaration of liberty? Ladies and gentlemen, there's no liberty if we can still see a single American chained and imprisoned by poverty. There's no liberty if our students are chained with fear due to rampant school shootings. It is not liberty if our government is restricted in implementing laws due to foreign manipulation. There's no liberty if our wounded veterans are still being haunted by horrors of war due to unavailability of mental health services. There's no liberty if some people in this great nation are being exploited and forced to work. There's no liberty if our society is still fractured by corruption, hatred, inequality, and discrimination. Get up, people of America. We can't just sit here and do nothing. There's plenty of work to do. Let's start building bridges across our differences. We must be vigilant and stop people who force others to work for their convenience. We must not treat others as commodities, but as radiant images of life, family, and community. We as Americans should not live in unreasonable fear and violence. I challenge you that if you see something, say something and do something. Freedom comes with a price. Truly, America became great because of the blood and sacrifices of our men and women like Rosa Parks, Susan B. Anthony, and George Washington. Not unless we become doers of justice and seekers of peace, we will never taste the true flavor of liberty.